What's up, internet? Welcome to my first MMA prediction breakdown analysis recap video. This one is for UFC 245 and a little bit of Edgar versus Korean Zombie. So I've been following and watching MMA for about 5 years now. And of all my friends that I have, I think only maybe one or two of them know really what MMA is and kind of are into it as well. So I'm really just interested to make these podcast video things just so I can talk about cards and talk about predictions, do some analysis, some breakdowns. And I feel like it's almost more just for myself than for whoever's going to end up watching these videos. So I'm just going to be making these, I think, once a week. I'm going to try once a week, and yeah, whoever likes them, that's cool. If you don't like them, cool. I'll still be making the videos. There's a few dudes who I follow on YouTube and SoundCloud and stuff who have regular prediction videos, and I like to watch those before cards. And there's things that I like about some of them, some things I don't like about some of them. So in my own podcast here, I'm going to try just do it the way that I would like a breakdown and analysis recap podcast to be like. So hopefully some of you guys like that as well. I will keep updating my Tapology page. There's a link to that in the description if you want to follow me for predictions. I've only recently started entering picks into there, which is kind of silly because it's a great website, and I wish had been doing that for a long time. But I've only got 4 or 5 cards up there that I've done predictions for now, and I'm doing pretty well. So yeah, keen to just keep that prediction rate up there. And just a disclaimer: I don't train MMA. I don't train jiu-jitsu, wrestling. I don't do any martial arts. So anything that I say here is just, based on my observations of watching fights and listening to other analysts who are much better than me. So take everything you hear with a grain of salt. But with all that being said, if anyone watches this video, has any questions or comments or whatever, just drop them down below and that will be greatly appreciated. All right, let's kick things off with the main event of this card. So we had Kamaru Usman defeating Colby Covington by TKO in the 5th round. What a crazy fight, huh? I know a lot of people were looking forward to this. I was very hyped for this fight because I just didn't know what was going to happen. I could have seen Kamaru knocking Colby out in the 1st round. I could have seen Colby wrestling him for 5 rounds. I could have seen, just didn't know. And ironically, what we got in the end was a kickboxing match for 25 minutes almost. Wasn't a single takedown attempted in this fight, which is pretty bananas. So what was the story of this fight? What did it look like in the end? What was the overarching picture? Well, I think the way that I see this fight is Usman had more power and he had more composure. And Colby had, as you would expect, more output, although that's what you would expect, but, according to these stats, didn't actually play out that way. But Colby he was definitely kind of the wilder, more active, higher pace fighter, but his output, ironically, in this fight was actually lower than Usman's, which is pretty crazy. So the fight starts, and, the first few rounds, Usman looks like he's a bit he's kind of tentative, kind of feeling Colby out, and Colby's just going to work, he's just jabbing, moving, throwing combos. And, Usman was getting tagged. He was actually getting hurt and stunned at some points, but he didn't break, which is, by round 3, I think it was round 3, he had that fake nut shot. Colby kicked him in the groin, allegedly, and we saw in the replay there was no groin shot there. And Usman, I think that was round 3, Usman wanted a break, and he got it. He got his nut shot break, and that was when I thought, by that stage of the fight, I thought, okay, Colby's picking up the pace now. Usman's getting tired, and Usman didn't break. He kept going. And I think the dynamic of this fight, this fight reminded me of, was Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier, in the sense that, Colby was the one who was going to be relying on the pressure, relying on picking up pace as the fight went on. And he was hitting Usman. He was doing his he was doing his damn best to disrupt him. But man, Usman looked calm, man. He was composed. And I was actually very impressed with how Usman did not wilt under the pressure of Colby's game. And I think what we saw in the end was the more physical, more powerful guy just kind of, he was more effective. You know, one of the most interesting things that I think everyone was keen to see in this fight was when I was trying to figure out who was going to win this fight, in the end, I thought that the winner was going to be the one who came to the cage with the better mindset. And I think that's probably what happened. I think Usman, you know, I can't imagine how hard it must be to just like contain your rage for someone like Colby and try and go in there and just execute your game plan and not get overwhelmed by emotion. And I think that's what he did. He somehow just didn't break, and I think that's really what we saw. He didn't crumble mentally. He stood firm the whole time. And you know, same thing with Colby, like holding up that act, that persona for so long, especially on fight week of the biggest fight of your life, like that must take a huge amount of energy. And that dude is going to get mauled by people now. He's doubled down, and he's got to eat his humble pie now, because man, he lost bad, man. And yeah, I can't imagine the energy it takes to what's the word, fortify your mind and try and keep calm in these fights for Usman and Colby. And it's just, I think one of them just did it better. One of them just imposed their will and didn't crack, and I think that was Usman. His shots were hurting more. I mean, if you look at the face of Colby at the end, he looked like an absolute bloody mess, and Usman just looked like he'd barely been in a fist fight. And you know, the judges, they see that, and unfortunately, you know, that's an important thing for them to see. That Colby got fucked up. He's tough as hell. He broke his jaw, but he was the one who was face down on the canvas at the end, full of his own blood, to quote his own words. You know, people were talking about the stoppage. Was it a bit early? Yeah, it was a little bit early. Like, and I don't think anyone would have been mad if that had gone on for a few seconds more. But if you look, you know, Colby's already made tweets being like, "Oh, it was a terrible stoppage. Goddard sucks," blah blah, which is, you know, what we're expecting him to do because he's trying to get that rematch. But he was on a low, terrible single leg, and he was in no real position to advance or, you know, get out of it. And you know, when the ref sees, you know, you can be holding onto a single leg and then the ref can kind of give you a chance, but then once you let go of that single leg and you try to cover your face like he did while Kamaru just landed hammer fists on him, it's like you're just not intelligently defending yourself anymore. So I have no real problem with that stoppage. I mean, that's what refs are looking for. Like when Mark Goddard sees you let go of that single leg and cover your face up and just take shots, I mean, what else can he do? That's his job. He's got to stop it. So, so yeah, crazy fight, man. I don't know if they're going to do a rematch or not, but that was entertaining. I was very entertained by that. I was expecting Usman to break. In terms of predictions, I was actually leaning Colby for like the last few weeks. I was thinking that he would actually outwork, outpace, and just kind of swarm Usman towards the end. But about Thursday, I think I changed to Usman with my pick, just because I don't know, man. The guy's proven. Like he's physically stronger. His cardio, maybe, is it as good as Colby's? I don't know. Maybe not. He definitely has to pace himself a lot more than Colby does. But I was just thinking, like, if it's who's going to get hurt? Like, does Colby ever TKO anyone? Does Colby ever hurt anyone? No, he doesn't. And I was thinking, is this the time where he's finally going to TKO someone and hurt Usman? I was like, I don't know. Like, Usman's striking is like, it's functional, it's fine. But I was thinking, if someone's going to get hurt in this fight, it's going to be Colby. And it kind of reminds me of that thing Deontay Wilder said, and he's like, you know, everyone I fight's got to be perfect for 12 rounds. I just have to be perfect for like 1 second. And that's kind of what happened here. It was sort of like the same thing that happened with Max and Dustin Poirier. Like, You know, when Usman was landing, Colby was getting hurt, and when Usman was getting landed on, he was getting hurt. He was getting stunned, but he was just more composed, and he just kept coming forward. And the body shots, man, the body shots. Who would have known? It's funny, like you see these things come out in title fights, high stakes. Like who would have known that the way to beat Colby is just like body shots? Because you could see him wilting, man. Like in the first, I think it was maybe round 1, round 2, when Usman landed like one of those stabbing front kicks, and you could see Colby, like his poker face, like dropped for a second, and he was like, you could tell like, oh shit, that hurt. And then Usman picked up on that and just kept jabbing the body, man. I think that probably opened up the strike that broke his jaw in the end. So yeah, I picked Usman in the end and came through. Great fight. So moving down the card now. Man, another great fight. Holloway, Volkanovski. Volkanovski, your new 145-pound champ. First Australian featherweight champ. Is it probably second? First Australian champ? Does Israel Adesanya count as Australian? I don't even know. He's New Zealand. Yeah, so Volkanovski just stealing Max's belt. So what was the story of this fight? Well, the overarching view of this fight, I think, was Volkanovski managed to disrupt Max's offense and did not allow him to get into a rhythm. You know, Max's whole thing is like building into a rhythm, coming forward, slowly building up the pace. It's like that snowball just, you know, rolling down the hill. The longer it keeps going, the bigger it gets. And then it's coming to bowl you over. And Volkanovski managed to, for the most part, just neutralize Max's game. And it was all because of those leg kicks. You know, as soon as in round 1, he was just hammering in those leg kicks, and I remember watching the fight live, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is a great game plan. This is probably how you beat Max." And Max got his lead leg chewed up, and that's a big thing because Max leans pretty heavy on that lead leg. He's sort of similar to Nate Diaz in that way, which is something I never actually thought of. Never thought of comparing Max Holloway to Nate Diaz, but I guess after watching this fight, I can kind of see some similarities there. Volkanovski was just chewing up that lead leg, man, and then Max had to switch. Of course, Max is pretty ambidextrous. He's a master of stance switching and just switching stance mid combo and just confusing guys, but his leg was getting chewed up, man, and I don't care who you are, you can't take too many of those things without having it affect your movement. And Volkanovski would just smash him in the leg, jab, move off to the side, and Max just couldn't get that rhythm going. He was just stopping and starting, and that's what Volkanovski did to Aldo as well in a similar kind of way, but he kind of neutralized him with more of the feinting in that fight. He has a way of just halting guys. It's pretty impressive. Yeah, so the leg kicks were big. This fight, and the other big thing was Volkanovski was kind of the one going forward a lot of the time. He was not fighting backwards, and he was using all those feints, all those patented city kickboxing next level matrix like striking game to just confuse Max. Like, I don't think Max could ever get started. And what also allowed Alex to do this was he has great cardio. Like, he is I don't know what the guy's built like a tank, and he just goes for days. Like, I don't know, test that man for EPO or something. But we actually did see, though, in the 5th round, he was starting to slow down a little bit. And I think that's actually when Max started to have a little bit of success, but it was just too little too late. Like Max had his moments, but he just left it too late. He was trying to it was like he was trying to work his usual game, which requires cumulative attrition and exhausting the other opponent. But I think what he needed to really do was go for a TKO or a surprise guillotine or something, because he was not going to start outpointing Volkanovski by like the 3rd and 4th, 5th round. So, leading up to this fight, one of the funny things was people were like, "Oh, Max's seen fighters like Volkanovski. Look who he just fought. He fought Frankie Edgar, but man, Frankie Edgar and Volkanovski could not be more different fighters at all. They share the same kind of stature, I guess, in a way. But Frankie doesn't actually. He's a wrestler, but he sits on the outside and he kind of outfights, which is not really conducive to beating Max. He was never going to get Max down. I mean, like, Max just pops up out of any takedowns. So, people who thought this was going to be just a repeat of Frankie Edgar, I think they were sorely confused. Very wrong about that dynamic. And, going into this fight, of all the 3 title fights that we had last night, this was my most confident one. I thought Volkanovski had this in the bag from when it was announced, or at the very least, thought that this was going to be Max's toughest fight. Because these people are starting to catch on now, but I'll say it again: these city kickboxing guys, they're like at least one level above everyone else when it comes to MMA striking. Like, those feints. If you want to learn more about this, go watch Luke Thomas's latest video on Volkanovski's offense, and he breaks it apart in the versus in the Volkanovski Aldo fight. Man, you want to talk about like some serious next level disruption of rhythm and sneaky little traps, and like, it's just ridiculous. So when this fight was announced, after seeing Volkanovski beat Mendes, I was like, all right, this guy's a problem. And it just feels like it was his time. Like, you listen to the way he was talking in the lead up to this fight, he was super relaxed, just super like loose. And watching him neutralize Aldo, like, that was another sign. I was like, man, like, same thing with like Israel Adesanya and Silva. Like, you look at it at first, you're like, oh, maybe Silva was just off, maybe Aldo was off. No, man, they got shut down. Volkanovski did kind of the same thing to Max, which is kind of shocking. Kind of just beat Max at his own game. Just, volume, feinting, pressure, leg kicks. The other thing as well is, like, going into this fight, Max has been doing this for a long time. He's been fighting the same way for a long time. Fought Frankie Edgar, not the hardest challenge for him. Before that, Brian Ortega, not the hardest challenge. Before that, 2 Aldo fights. Those are probably his toughest fights as a champ. I'm not on the Brian Ortega train. I think he beats, like, a lot of top 10, maybe some top 5 guys, but I don't think he's got a long way to go in the striking before he can hang with the top. So, people like Volkanovski, they've been studying Max for a long time, and they've truly got like a modern MMA game. And so they've got time, they've got resources, they can just train and they work their way up and they build a game plan, and that's how they beat these champs. That's how you get new champs. So it was pretty amazing. But yeah, I picked Volkanovski for this like weeks ago, and I was the most confident that of all the title fights, that this was going to be the one that. This was the one I was like, I'm pretty confident in this, and he came through. So good job, Volkanovski. So moving down the card now, Nunes and Randamie. So what happened here? What did we see? We saw Amanda Nunes basically just being a better mixed martial artist than Randamie. This was a ridiculous fight, man. Like, I was watching this live and I was thinking, like, if you wanted to show someone all the aspects of MMA in one fight, this is probably a pretty good option, because we had wrestling, we had striking, we had boxing, we had kickboxing, we had arm bars, we had triangles, we had up kicks, we had, like, this fight was just like, Nunes was struggling, man. She opened the match with some striking, because Nunes is like that. She likes to, even when she's doing something dangerous, she likes to, like, tread closely to the fire. And she was throwing down at Randamie, and I think pretty soon she found out, shit, I don't want to do this. Like, why am I doing this? And then she just started, diving for the takedowns. And once things got to the floor, you could see it would look like a blue belt versus a black belt. I was actually really surprised that Randamie made it out of that first round. She survived, I think, a head and arm choke and some vicious ground and pound. And she was up kicking for her life, man. She was trying to stay in there, and she got in there. I was surprised Nunes didn't finish her. I think Randamie kind of surprised everyone with how tough she is. And there was a moment in this fight where I think Randamie had Nunes in like a reversed arm bar or something. Like she was trying to submit Nunes, and I think she kept Nunes on her toes. So every round she would take her down, and every round she would try and take her down sooner and sooner because she was like, I don't want any of this stand up. And she even got rocked by a head kick. Like Randamie staggered Nunes when she was coming down with an up kick. So tough fight, man. Just because you're the champ doesn't mean you have this kind of doesn't mean you're just guaranteed title defenses. Like it seems like every fight you have is going to be probably your toughest fight yet. So I think Nunes really had to dig quite deep there. So I ended up picking Nunes as well. I just thought, how's Randamie going to win? It's probably only going to be on the feet. I mean, we saw her almost like she was threatening submissions, which is pretty crazy. But like who in this fight had more chances to win? Who has also been proven to use those chances to win more? It's obviously Nunes. We've only seen Randamie fight like, she KO'd Aspen Ladd in 15 seconds, and before that her last fight was Holly Holm, I think. So it's like just not that active, and you kind of Nunes has been out here just starching everyone, and it's like, well, it's hard to pick against Nunes, man. Nothing in MMA is certain, but if you're going to make a prediction, Nunes was the safe one, so I picked Nunes. Let's look at some of these stats for this fight. Yeah, so that fight was pretty much all on the ground. So even though some weird stuff happened, Amanda Nunes was still a very dominant winner. So moving on now to Moraes and Jose Aldo. Man, this was a pretty crazy fight as well. So I think the story of this fight is that Marlon Moraes should really be counting his lucky stars today, because I actually turned this fight off. I left the room with about 2 or 3 minutes left in the third round, because I was like, oh, Aldo's going to get this decision. He's winning this fight. It's tight, but I think he's winning. So round one, Aldo ate some big shots, man. Straight out of the gate, Moraes is using that left high kick. I think Aldo ate almost like a flush high kick and just kind of smiled it off. And I was like, okay, maybe Aldo's not dead yet, because he looked like a corpse this week. So first round, Moraes, he was definitely the more explosive guy. He was landing the bigger shots, looked calmer, looked more in control. But then he just tires. This dude he's a nightmare for 4 minutes, 5 minutes. We saw the same thing in the Cejudo fight, and he paid for it there. Moraes loses round 2 pretty soundly. I don't think anyone's arguing that. And then round 3 was round 3 is the round everyone's talking about. If you look at the stats here, so Aldo throws more strikes overall, lands 1 fewer significant strike than Moraes, but round 3 he was the one who was advancing. He was the one who was pushing the pressure. And I guess when I was watching it live, I was like, oh yeah, Moraes 1, Aldo 2, probably Aldo 3. But when I saw the results, I was actually just laughing, because I picked Moraes. I picked Marlon to win this, and I was not confident at all watching the fight. I was like, man, this guy's going to let me down, but he got gifted that decision. I mean, was it a robbery? I don't know, probably not, but man, I would, if I was, even though I'd picked Moraes, I would have given that fight to Aldo. So, Aldo looked pretty good though. I gotta say, I don't think the dude's washed just yet. He's still pretty good, but man, it's tough. You're getting old, cutting heaps of weight, losing these close decisions. It sucks, man. And, Moraes was in a precarious position after I lost to Cejudo. He's coming off a loss. This was he should really be lucky he got that decision, because I think if he lost this, he would have been That would have been tough. So, 4 out of 4 picks that I got right so far. Moving down, Peter Yan, Uriah Faber. Man, talk about an absolute beatdown. Fighters tend to believe in themselves to an inordinate, extraordinary kind of degree, and I think Uriah Faber is no exception, because you listen to him talk before this fight and he's like, yeah, like, what do I got to lose? I just go out there and fight this new guy, show him some skills, show him who I am, be tough, whatever. And it's like, dude, you're fighting it, first of all, a Russian, so like that's like a disadvantage in and of itself, because Russians and Dagestanis, I think, just have like overall in all of MMA, or at least the UFC, have like a really positive win record. So you're fighting a Russian, you're fighting a guy who's like 10 years younger than you, and a guy who's been like a true modern MMA fighter, versus Uriah, who's like this, a guy who still fights like it's 2009 or something. Like his whole game is predicated around A, being tough as hell, which is great, B, a huge overhand right as his main weapon, and C, maybe like, a guillotine. Like, what else does Uriah really do? And you're fighting this guy who's just like been tearing through the division, and he's like 10 years younger than you. I mean, the odds were right, man. I think Uriah was like a 4.5 to 1 underdog or something, and he got, he's tough as hell, but he got schooled, man. Like, Jan did some crazy stuff in this fight. Like, there's that elbow off the break of the clinch that I think dropped, was one of the few knockdowns that he got in Faber. Like, just vicious, man. Vicious. Like, the guy mixes it up so well. He's just a much more complete fighter than Uriah. And like, what's he going to do? Like, get caught with a big overhand right? The guy has his hands up to his face the whole time. He's just, it's hard to see how Faber's going to win this one. And then crazy thing, you watch the kick that ended the fight. They're in the clinch in the third round, and Jan is actually going for a knee. You can see him try to bring Uriah's face down onto his knee, but Uriah kind of breaks away and pulls back, and like mid knee strike, Jan just extends his foot and just turns it into a head kick, which just like flash KOs Uriah Faber. And it's like, it's just next level stuff, man. It's hard. It's hard to come back. Hard to come back from like, one win in the last 5 years or some shit and come and beat a monster like that. So excited for Jan. I picked Jan, obviously. Yeah, man. Total strikes like 28 versus 62, 18 versus 54 significant strikes, 2 takedowns, just total beatdown. I hope Uriah just does not come back to fighting and just goes and hangs out with his wife and kid or something, because, yeah, that's not good for his health. Moving down the card even more. Jeff Neal, Mike Perry. Man, when I saw Jeff Neal literally kill Frank Camacho with a head kick, I was like, oh, okay, this dude is... you watch... when you watch so much MMA... you're sampling, like you get a really big sample size of fights, and you get so many examples of certain fighters fighting a certain way, and when you have such a big sample size like that, when something stands out, it's very obvious. And watching Jeff Neal fight Frank Camacho, and then did you fight Nico Price after that, or did you fight someone else before? I'm not sure, but like watching this dude striking, man, this dude is so clean. Like, his striking technique seems way beyond where he is ranked as a welterweight. So when I saw this fight got made, this matchup, I was like, dude, like, Perry's he's in for a bad time, man. And that's exactly what we saw. I picked Jeff Neal KO/TKO round 1, and that's what we got. Yeah, it's just a deadly accuracy versus a brawler in Mike Perry, and I think we've found out now that Mike Perry he's not that good. He's lost 5 of his last 7. The dude is he's athletic, he's powerful, but he's just a few cents short of $1 or something, because he can't put it all together. He can't He's tough as hell, but he just can't do it, man. He doesn't have that, he can't connect the dots. Let's put it that way. So yeah, Mike Perry eats a pretty flush head kick, and then that leads to just a TKO along the fence. He just ate some huge shots. It was ridiculous. I'm sure his whoever did his plastic surgery must be on his nose from when Luque rearranged it, must be sitting there shaking their head and having to go in and fix that shit again because he got messed up. So yeah, Jeff Neal, absolute problem for the division. I want to see him get a good top 10 guy next, because I think he is one to watch. He's got something which a lot of other fighters don't have. He's got something special. How would he do against a wrestler, which is, 170 is kind of a wrestler's game at the moment, so we'll see. But he trains out of Fortis MMA, and Fortis is becoming a good gym. Good fighters there. So moving down the card even further, Ketlen Vieira, Irene Aldana. Man, I got this one wrong. I picked Ketlen Vieira. On paper, it was kind of hard not to, but I guess that time off for Vieira did not work in her favor. Usually I actually like Aldana. I think I've been following her fights for quite a while now. I think she has really good boxing, really good striking. She even didn't she submit? She submitted. Was it Betch? Pulled out like a late armbar or something and submitted someone recently. So she's got a pretty good game. But I went with Vieira because I felt like she's the more imposing athlete. She's the more powerful one. And as much as I like Aldana, she seems to have this tendency that a lot of the women's MMA strikers have, where it's not like they're trigger shy, but it seems like they just hit air a lot. I don't really know. Like a good example is Katlyn Chookagian. She's fighting Shevchenko next, and if I was her, I would be terrified, because Chookagian she obviously has good technique, but for some reason she just insists on hitting air more than her opponent, and I don't know, it's like just throwing strikes to like distract or something, but so few of her strikes connect. So it's just this thing that a lot of the women fighters tend to do. Sometimes I feel like Aldana lacks confidence or something, or she doesn't live up to her skills, which are actually really good. She has really good striking. She's primarily a boxer, but she pulled it out. KO'd Vieira in the first round, and that was brutal. I think she looked pretty out cold for a while there, so got that one wrong, boys, but still happy for Aldana. Heinisch, Akhmedov. Look, don't bet against people whose last names end in ov or Magomed or something, because like I said before, Russians, Dagestanis, these dudes literally have like a 65 or 70% like overall win ratio in the UFC. So like if you're just going by the stats, like usually just bet on dudes whose last names end in ov, and you'll probably be okay. But yeah, man, Heinisch tried to come back in the third round, but it was too little too late. Yeah, the Wolverine got it done, so I lost that one as well. I picked Heinisch. Kind of unfortunate. Not a very interesting fight. But moving further down the card, Ben Saunders, Matt Brown. So this one I got right. Matt Brown KO/TKO round 2. That's exactly how I called it, and I got it. What do you want to say about this, man? Like, Saunders is washed. Saunders needs to retire. The dude has been KO'd like 6 times in his last 7 fights or something ridiculous. Like, it was just a kind of a great matchup for Matt Brown. Like, Saunders can crack, but I don't think he was going to be the one catching Matt Brown in a submission on the ground. Like, yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Matt Brown's been off for, I think, 2 years after he literally killed Diego Sanchez. And yeah, it's just fun to see him leaving people in a pool of blood again. Never not going to be a fan of that. So Matt Brown starching people once again. So what else we had? Hooper, Tamer, Chase Hooper. Dude gets a good win. man, these Tamer brothers, like this, they just look like the most comical dudes. Like they're always just so angry and kind of bad sports and lots of fouls. And it's kind of funny to see Daniel Tamer get schooled again. I picked Hooper in that one, so I got that one. Moreno, Kara France. I got this one wrong. I was expecting Kara France to pull out a decision, but he got decision, so disappointing for my New Zealand bros. Jessica I and Araujo. I picked Araujo for this one just because, man, I think I really don't like Jessica I. I think she's just a pain. She says stupid shit, and, you know, she missed weight by like 5 pounds. You can go find videos of her talking about like shitting on people for missing weight, and the stuff she was doing in the lead up to the Shevchenko fight was just, it was hard to watch. But yeah, I guess, you know, the curse of losing to people who miss weight is still upheld. So, you know, Araujo gets decisioned. And the other interesting one that I bet on, so I got that pick wrong. I picked Araujo. But Soriano and Picota. I picked Picota. I picked Soriano in this one because I don't know. You just get that feeling it's this dude's time. He's first fight in the UFC, absolutely murdered Picota in the third round. I think I called that as well. I called Soriano KO/TKO third round. Like, that's exactly what happened. That was a vicious knockout, man. Picota needs to find another career or something, because I think he's had 3 fights in the UFC and he's been finished in all of them. So tough for him. Soriano, another Hawaiian dude, looks scary, man. So yeah, great card all up. Check my there's a link to my Tapology page in the description if you want to see how I went. I did pretty well. Came 116th out of about 3,000 people for picks on that card, so pretty stoked with that. So we'll just quickly have a look at the card coming up this weekend. UFC Fight Night 165, or UFC on ESPN Plus 23, or UFC Edgar versus Korean Zombie, whatever the hell you want to call it. Frankie Edgar versus the Korean Zombie. Man, this is this is not. I don't like this fight for Frankie Edgar, man. I don't think it's fair to say that Frankie Edgar is washed, but the dude is like, he's 38 now or something, and he's been in a million wars. You know, Korean Zombie's not that young either, but I think he's just a sharper dude. He's a sharper dude. He's more dangerous. He's fighting at home, which makes a difference. It definitely adds maybe 5 or 10% more kind of winning power, if you want to call it that, to your chances, I think. Plus, Frankie Edgar just got pieced up by Max Holloway a month ago or something. Like, it's just it's hard to see how he gets it done here. I mean, you know, anything's possible, but I think it's going to be hard for Edgar. He's gonna have a tough time. I could even see the Korean Zombie just TKOing him, to be honest. The way he put out Moicano with was it like a straight right or something? That was vicious, man. So yeah, I don't know if I trust Edgar to be able to get Zombie down and keep him down for like 5 rounds, because I think that's the only way that Frankie Edgar can win, and I just don't trust he's going to be able to do that. Looking at the rest of this card, it's actually just like regional dudes that no one knows or really cares about, myself included. I looked at the card, I picked out some names. So we got some names people might actually know. So we got Usman and Rakic, which is a pretty interesting fight because Usman has looked very good lately. He has dispatched... Who did he beat? He beat Ilia Latifi pretty convincingly. I think he beat Dominic Reyes. I think he won that decision, but didn't get the nod, which is unfortunate. But gave Reyes everything he could handle. So I think he's really looking good lately. Rakic, though, coming off a sanctioned killing of Jimmy Manuwa. Shout out to Jimmy Manuwa, just sacrificing his livelihood over and over again in the cage. That dude I mean, he was dead for like at least a minute when after Rakic just head kicked him into the crowd. So, you know, I haven't seen much of Rakic. I feel like he's one of these dudes who's rapidly improving, but still quite untested. So this is quite a good matchup. It's kind of going to be like a skill versus momentum, confidence type matchup. But I think I'd probably go with Usman. I think he's actually he's quietly turning into a really good fighter after getting schooled by DC. We also got the return of that boy Choi, Duho Choi versus some guy, Charles Jourdain. I looked at this guy's page and he doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, so it looks like this is just this is a comeback for Choi after who did he fight in that last? Duho Choi last fought. Yeah, he got destroyed by Jeremy Stevens, so this should be a nice comeback for him. Versus Charles Jourdain, just some nobody. The other thing that surprised me about this card is Cyril Gane is fighting again. This dude fought like 3-4 weeks ago in like a 3-round fight where he submitted another dude, another no-name heavyweight. So Cyril Gane is fighting Tanner Boser, who I looked him up as well, and he just looks like another nobody heavyweight. So for those of you who don't know, well, I'm sure lots of you do know, Cyril Gane he's one of the next big things at heavyweight. And this dude is athletic as fuck, and he's good everywhere. He moves like a middleweight, hits like a heavyweight. Strangely, he's just been submitting everyone, which is weird considering he was a kickboxer before this. So people are watching Cyril Gane, and I think, you know, if everything goes to plan, he will do something horrific to Tanner Boser and keep building his name. So that should be a good fight as well. Apart from that, not much else in this card. Matt Schnell, Alexandre Pantoja, Raoni Barcelos versus Saeed Nurmagomedov. I don't know if that's one of Khabib's millions cousins, but yeah, look, not a great card. So we will leave it there. Thanks for tuning in, and like the video, subscribe, see you guys next time with another video.